Every current UFC champion explained, starting with the flyweight champion Joshua Van. Joshua Van is not just the youngest current champion on this list, but he's actually the second youngest champion in UFC history, just barely missing out on breaking the record held by Jon Jones. And yes, that is obviously very impressive, but what is also very impressive about Joshua Van is his activity. Joshua Van fought 4 times in 2025, with a win at UFC 313, a win at UFC 316, and on an insanely short notice turnaround at UFC 317, he would be a part of one of the craziest fights in flyweight history against Brandon Royval, where he would do just enough to get the decision win. Not only was that insanely short notice, but it was a crazy jump up in competition for Joshua. Regardless, his performances plus his activity would grant him a title shot against Pantoja in December at UFC 323. And well, we all know what would happen that night. Because of Pantoja's injury, Joshua Van would be awarded the belt, and although many would clown him for being undeserving, he would put all doubts to rest after he would land an absolutely devastating KO against Tatsuro Taira in his first title defense a few months later. After that, many doubters turned into Van believers. The fact that he's only 24 is absolutely absurd. I mean, bro is literally my age and he's out here getting title defenses in the UFC. Like, what? If he can win against Pantoja in the rematch, he has insane potential to be a superstar. Next up is Petr Yan. Petr Yan was finally the fighter who stepped up and put an end to the historical 2025 campaign Merab was on. 4 fights and looking for 4 title defenses in a single calendar year, Petr Yan would put an end to it after completely shocking everyone and dominating Merab. I say he shocked everyone because literally nobody gave Petr Yan a chance. These two fought before a few years prior and Merab 50-45'd him, making it look easy. And yet Yan would somehow 50-45 Merab in the rematch. Unfortunately, this division has slowed up a good bit since Petr has taken over the belt. Apparently he's been out with an injury, so I guess there's really nothing you can do about that. But it just sucks when we had such an active champion like Merab Dvalishvili just fighting 4 times a year as a champion. Like, that's just unheard of nowadays. However, Jan's next fight should be either a rematch against Merab, because Merab completely deserves it and it's 1-1, they need a trilogy, or a rematch with Sean O'Malley after he lost to O'Malley back in 2023 off a split decision. The UFC loves them some Sean O'Malley title fights, so I would not be surprised at all if they do go that direction. Regardless, Yan has some unfinished business in this division and I'd be happy with whatever route they decide to take. But as a Sugar fan, low-key, I want to see that rematch first. Alexander Volkanovski, the featherweight champion. The greatest featherweight of all time in terms of accolades and achievements. Yes, I said it that way on purpose. There have been so many elite featherweights that have dominated the division, but they've moved up to lightweight because of the grueling weight cut. Volk was one of the greats who actually never moved up. Well, aside from those 2 times. Volk continued to dominate the 145-pound division, beating the only other guy who's heavily regarded as the featherweight GOAT in Jose Aldo. He beat Max Holloway 3 times. He had a dominant run at featherweight until somebody named Ilia Topuria came along and put an end to it, as that was actually Volk's only loss at featherweight. Luckily for Volk, Ilia would move up and vacate the belt, and Volk would get his belt back after dominating Diego Lopez at 314, and then he dominated him again at 325. And I would not be surprised by the time this video comes out that Volk in Lopez 3 is made already. It's obvious Volk is getting up there in age, so he doesn't really have many fights left. Considering we have never really seen great featherweights stay in the division, we might never see anyone dethrone Volk as the most achieved fighter in the 145-pound division. The fact that he's continued to dominate one of the most skilled divisions in the UFC throughout all these years is just insane. Justin Gaethje. Justin Gaethje has spent his entire career being known as an entertaining fighter who's never touched undisputed championship gold. Anytime he's fought for undisputed, he's fought against guys like Khabib, Charles Oliveira, Ilia Topuria. Oh wait, he actually beat Ilia Topuria. Yes, Justin Gaethje was responsible for one of the craziest upsets in UFC history after TKOing Ilia Topuria at the White House. He literally made his corner throw in the towel in between rounds. Somebody as unbeatable as Ilia Topuria at that time, and Justin Gaethje made him quit? A fighter who was seen as untouchable, with many claiming that that fight was a death sentence for Justin Gaethje, including myself. I thought the same exact thing as an Ilia Topuria glazer. It ended up turning into one of the craziest fairy tale endings for Gaethje. I personally think he should have just retired after that upset. I mean, that was one of the craziest wins in UFC history and MMA history. It would have been so sick for him just to retire on the spot and go out on top. I mean, they have tons of contenders in the division, so we'll see who Gaethje fights next if he doesn't retire. Islam Makhachev. The pound for pound #1 fighter on the planet. He's got the greatest resume out of all active fighters on the roster. There's no doubt in my mind. He's on an insanely dominant win streak right now. In fact, it's an absolutely historic win streak. And he's coming off his first welterweight fight where he won the belt off JDM back in November, where he became a double champion, which very few have done. He's a bit inactive for my liking, which kind of sucks. Obviously, you want to see fighters fight in the sport. He does have a fun personality, and he's one of the more entertaining Russians, considering they have a stereotype that they're just all boring. Islam's actually the most entertaining one out of all of them. So not only is he entertaining, but he also has a chance to become one of the greatest fighters, if not the greatest fighter in MMA history. If he keeps this win streak up, if he keeps adding names to his resume with this insanely stacked welterweight division, I think he could surpass guys like Jon Jones in GSP if he hasn't already. I think he's better than Khabib. I mean, Islam's the greatest lightweight of all time, and then now he's moving up to welterweight. If he dominates 2 divisions, he might be the greatest of all time. Sean Strickland, the middleweight champion. Just like Gaethje upsetting Elias, Sean did the exact same thing to Khamzat Chimaev at 328 in May. Definitely one of the more polarizing figures in the sport. You don't really need to keep up with the UFC to hear the name Sean Strickland. Even though his fighting style is just spamming teeps and jabs, he's one of the best fighters in middleweight history after his recent win. He's upset prime Israel Adesanya and prime Khamzat Chimaev, but he does have 2 losses to DDP, which is unfortunate for him. And even though Sean Strickland is one of the most achieved fighters in the middleweight division, his personality and out of the octagon characteristics definitely overshadow that, unfortunately for him. Carlos Ulberg, the man who beat Yuri Prochazka on one leg. Yeah, no, I'm not making that up. Buddy literally tore his ACL and somehow knocked out Yuri in the same exact round. It was actually one of the craziest things I've ever witnessed as a UFC fan. But unfortunately for us UFC fans, since Ulberg won and he has a torn ACL, he's going to be inactive for quite some time. That did happen in April though, so some time has passed since then, but he definitely will be out for the rest of the year. And hopefully they make an interim title fight for that division to kind of keep things moving along. I definitely don't think they should strip Ulberg. People were saying they should after the fight, but bro, he literally won the belt after tearing his ACL in the octagon. Like, it wasn't a Jamal Hill type thing where he tore his ACL out the octagon. Like, if he did that, then yeah, you should get stripped. But he literally tore his ACL fighting for the company, and he won the belt. That was one of the sickest things I've ever seen. He should not get stripped for that. So it's unfortunate that he did tear his ACL. He's going to be inactive for quite some time, but we'll just have to see. Hopefully they have an interim title fight in the near future. Also, if you're looking for a fighter with a big personality and a big brand, Carlos Ulberg is not that guy, so just keep moving forward. I'm freaking Aspinall, baby. One of my favorite fighters in the UFC, unfortunately. Yeah, I say unfortunately because he's fought twice in the last 2 years. It's been at least over 700 days since he's gotten his last win in the octagon. 2 fights in the past 2 years, and I wouldn't even count one of them because we all know what happened. When he's healthy though, Tom Aspinall is one of the craziest specimens you will ever see. The way he moves at that weight is so absurd, and along with his personality and humbleness, he's got a fan of me for life, man. I'm with the Tom Aspinall fandom till the wheels fall off. Along with the eye poke from Cyril Gane last October, he was also sidelined for an entire year and a half after Jon Jones refused to fight him at that time and instead fight Old Man Stipe. It was absolutely ridiculous because Tom Aspinall was the interim champion and obviously he should have been next in line, but instead Jon Jones said no thank you. Tom Aspinall literally had to defend his interim title. Like, bro literally has a title defense as an interim champion. That literally is so insanely rare. That never happens, nor should it ever happen. These 2 unfortunate situations have had Tom on the sidelines for a good bit of his career recently, which sucks. He's so talented, and I wish he could showcase that talent because the UFC needs superstars, and I guarantee you Tom Aspinall would be one of the biggest superstars if he would just fight, which I know it's not his fault. I'm not saying it's his fault. It just sucks, and it's an insanely unfortunate situation because I know the potential that this man has. It's just limitless. Although who knows how the UFC treats him after Tom Aspinall signed with Eddie Hearn, aka Dana White's biggest enemy.